In my last video, I talked about how mindfulness can just help us feel more in control of ourselves in general. So today I thought I would share a little bit about how these mindfulness skills, as that awareness starts to build, how that actually helps us to meet our mental health goals. So if that interests you at all, stay tuned. Obviously, there are so many different types of therapy out there, and likewise, the goals, the mental health goals that we have are going to be so very unique to you and your experience and what you're experiencing now versus what you want your life to actually be like. But it's also true that having a sense of mindful awareness just in general from practicing mindfulness regularly can be really beneficial in meeting pretty much any goals that you might have mental health wise or even beyond. Practicing mindfulness regularly leads us to having this thing called mindful awareness, which is really just a fancy way of saying I'm going to pay attention to the present moment into what is actually happening without getting completely derailed and lost in thought, memories, intrusive thoughts, or anything like that. And if we can actually be aware of what's happening right now in our physical environment, as well as especially in our mind and our just emotional body, then we can start to actually have control over what's going on in my mind. How is that impacting my emotions, my behaviors? And then we can start to kind of interrupt that cycle to really in particular lead our thoughts and our behaviors to be more aligned within our values, what we actually know to be true. One of the first ways that this skill of mindful awareness is really beneficial is that it can help us catch these unhelpful, automatic types of thoughts that cross our mind and kind of lead us astray throughout our day, especially when we get triggered. It also helps us to catch these unhelpful maybe behaviors or bad habits, things that we do or things that we say that tend us to have the secondary reaction of, why did I think that way? Why did I do this thing? That's so not me. The reason that being able to catch unhelpful or unrealistic thoughts is super helpful is that our thoughts often lead to our emotions, and our emotions often lead to behaviors. So if we notice that, our behaviors aren't necessarily aligning or jiving with who we see ourselves to be, then we can kind of retrace our steps to our thoughts and how are we perceiving what's actually going on in our world, and we can start to become curious about it. So if we are totally unaware of when these unhelpful or unrealistic thoughts come across our mind, it can kind of be like a emotional roller coaster, feeling totally completely out of control of ourselves along the way. So if we can actually practice mindfulness regularly, and therefore the skill of mindful awareness can start to build within us, it becomes easier to catch our thoughts, to be aware of the thoughts that we're having in the present moment. And if we can catch them, then we can become curious about them. Maybe we can even change them or try to find something that's a little bit more realistic, and therefore everything else, meaning our emotions or our behaviors, can align with this new perspective. So if we are thinking about this kind of like steps in a process, that first step I was just talking about is, first of all, catching the thoughts. Then the second step is going to be becoming curious about the thoughts. Why am I thinking about that? Which really raises the topic of core beliefs and the impact of really early experiences or those super fun experiences of middle school or high school. I actually made an entire video about core beliefs, so I will link it here for you so you can check that out and learn more about it. Once we kind of know, why am I thinking the way that I'm thinking? Where is that thought coming from? Is it coming from a maybe not so true core belief from my past, or is it actually a realistic perspective from today? Once we can know where is this thought coming from, then we can start to not necessarily challenge it, but just kind of become curious about what is the most realistic possibility here. And we can start thinking of alternative perspectives and maybe just things that are a little bit more realistic than that negative core beliefs wants us to believe. So I'm going to run through just a quick example of what this can be like maybe without us having some mindful awareness and then with some mindful awareness. So let's say you are passing by a friend or a colleague and you smile at them like you normally do, but they just don't acknowledge you. You might have an automatic thought like, they didn't even look at me, or I must have done something wrong, it's my fault. And this would likely lead to feeling pretty upset for that day, and maybe even that emotion or just that feeling of anger or sadness leading into the next day or the whole week. Maybe it even impacts our behaviors, like avoiding this friend or colleague because we think that we did something wrong, or we're upset with them because of how they responded to us. Now, with mindful awareness, this same situation could look like this. Again, you pass by your friend or your colleague, you smile at them like you normally do, and they just don't acknowledge you. Okay, so you might still have those automatic thoughts like, they didn't even look at me, or it's all my fault, or I did something wrong. But now you have this skill of mindful awareness, and you start thinking, well, is that even true? Why am I thinking like that? Could there be another explanation for this dear friend of mine not acknowledging me? And as you become curious in this process, maybe you start thinking of alternative possibilities, like maybe they were having a really bad day. Maybe they just got some really bad news. Or maybe they are distracted by their own thoughts and emotions and are just so overwhelmed that they didn't notice you. And maybe it wasn't something personal. And thinking about these different possibilities actually leads you to have a little bit more compassion and empathy for your friend. And now your behaviors turn from avoidance to actually seeking them out to try and help. So that's a pretty quick and easy example of how, our thoughts really impact our emotions really impact our behaviors. And sitting down and just trying to become curious and understand how all of these factors play a role in how we go about life today can help us to feel more in control of not only our thoughts, but also our emotions and our behaviors. One caveat to this process or this practice is that as this awareness grows, it often grows a bit quicker than the control that we might have over actually making a change. And it's completely normal for this discrepancy to cause a lot of frustration. So I just want to point that out to normalize that as part of the process, because it really is just a normal part of the process, that awareness just grows kind of quicker than our control over being able to change things. Hopefully that acknowledgement or that normalization can help just encourage you that just because you're feeling frustrated, that I'm so aware of all of these things going on and things that I want to change, but I'm not quite to the point where I can actually change things, that's normal, and that is telling you that you're on the right path. It takes time and it takes patience to be able to get there, but you're so close, and definitely keep going. Okay, so now that we have kind of gone over those steps in the process, let's put it into practice. One way that we can naturally build this mindful awareness, of course, it'll come naturally with a regular mindfulness practice, such as meditation, yoga, anything that just kind of continually brings us back to the breath. I'll link a video or two here as well, practices and just information about mindfulness too if you're interested, so check those out for sure. But if you're not wanting to engage in a mindfulness practice at this time, but you really want to raise awareness of your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors to feel more in control of your life, then one way to do that is reflecting on our day. We can simply take some time at the end of our day to jot some things down and just reflect on what happened. Was I feeling really strong emotions like sadness or anger or anything like that? And kind of retrace our steps to, okay, well, I was feeling really strongly. What happened today? Were there any situations that maybe were really triggering? Or perhaps there were, I was around so-and-so again, and man, I'm starting to notice that I always get really anxious around them. I don't know why. Let me explore that a little bit. Writing things down can also help our brain to process in a different way. It kind of gets us out of this vicious thought cycle too. Being able to get things out verbally as well as down on paper, your brain just processes things in a different way. So it can be really helpful to gain clarity and just gain understanding as well of the experiences that we have. It kind of puts things into perspectives and connects all the little dots, just like therapy kind of does, kind of helps us to understand ourselves and our experiences a bit better. So again, this practice of just reflecting on your day just kind of helps to start that process. And it really does take some time. Reflecting at the end of our day can be a great place to start, because initially, even though we're talking about this topic of awareness, it takes time for that to build. So you might be going through your day tomorrow and just not really catch any of these thoughts or emotions or behaviors. That's okay. That's totally normal. Using this practice of reflecting at the end of your day slowly raises awareness to where, okay, now I'm starting to catch things when they're actually happening in the moment. All right, so that is it for today's video. I hope, as always, it is beneficial for you guys, especially as you are on this journey of, just trying to feel more in control of yourself and your life and reaching some of those mental health goals perhaps that you have, or just raising awareness of what's going on in the present moment in general. So make sure to hit subscribe so you can stay up to date on other videos that are sure to be coming out very soon, just about mental health topics, and also, of course, meditations and other practices that can help hopefully find peace in this life and just, again, feeling more in control. So until next time, take care.